The sound of an international airport filled the air like a restless symphony. Boarding calls echoing, suitcase wheels rolling across the floor, polite voices repeating, "Please line up in order." Amid the crowd stood Dr. Amara Lewis, 34, tall, with skin the color of deep bronze, holding a first-class ticket. She was flying to Houston, NASA's headquarters, to present her research on a new thermal shield material designed for spacecraft. For Amara, this wasn't just a flight. It was a journey toward a childhood dream, to walk into the rooms she once saw on TV, where scientists discussed Mars and the future of humankind. She had fought her way here, born to a working-class family in Atlanta, once rejected from a scholarship for being not aligned with research goals. Yet she persisted, earning a PhD in physics on renewable energy in extreme environments. At the counter, she smiled, placing her ticket, passport, and airline card down. The desk agent, a middle-aged white woman, scanned the documents, frowned, and said, "Excuse me, are you sure this ticket is yours? This is first class." "Yes," Amara replied calmly. "Seat 1A, flight 472 to Houston." The woman's smile was thin. "Just checking. Sometimes passengers confuse the classes." Murmurs rose from the line behind. Someone laughed quietly. "Guess she found a discount ticket and thought she's one of us." Amara stayed silent, gaze steady. Moments later, the ticket printed. She passed security, but the sting lingered. At the aircraft door, the chief flight attendant, Caitlin, bright lipstick, sharp eyes, looked at her ticket. "Oh, seat 1A? There must be some mistake. Are you sure?" Amara smiled faintly. "Pretty sure, unless NASA changed its reservation system." A few passengers chuckled. Caitlin smirked. "NASA? Really? I didn't know they hired outside consultants." The words fell like stones into still water. Ripples of laughter followed. Amara said nothing. Her eyes darkened, restrained but cutting. According to the International Air Transport Association, 46% of black passengers report feeling discriminated against while flying, particularly in premium cabins. Yet fewer than 5% of these cases are ever formally recorded. Sometimes, bias flies higher than the plane itself. Caitlin continued her service, irritation visible. She dropped a tablecloth with unnecessary force, spilled water on a nearby bag, then muttered, "Maybe I'm just tired from serving special guests today." A few passengers looked away. Others smirked awkwardly. Amara turned toward the window. Sunlight carved through the glass like a blade, dividing two worlds. Inside, quiet suspicion. Outside, the boundless sky she had dedicated her life to. She remembered her father's words, "You can be the smartest in the room, but one doubter can make you feel small. Don't ever let them succeed at that." The plane taxied. Caitlin still hovered, glancing at Amara as if looking for another flaw. What she didn't know, the woman she mocked was a key scientist at NASA, part of the research team developing thermal regulation systems for astronauts. In just 1 week, Amara would brief government officials on the results of her team's breakthrough. 10 minutes into the flight, Amara kept silent, typing on her laptop. Then came Caitlin's third jab. "Maybe you'd feel more comfortable in economy with everyone else." Amara closed her laptop, opened her wallet, and drew a silver badge that caught the cabin light. NASA identification. She placed it on the tray table. "I think everyone will feel more comfortable," she said quietly, "knowing who you're serving." The cabin went silent. Laughter died. No one spoke. The silver badge glinted under the cabin lights, slicing through the air, between arrogance and truth. A man a few rows back whispered, "Is she really from NASA?" No one answered, but the silence spoke louder than any word. Caitlin swallowed hard. I didn't mean, I was just..." Amara looked directly at her. "You don't need to explain. We both know the difference between asking to understand and asking to belittle." In NASA's 2024 diversity report, black women made up only 12% of the agency's scientists and engineers, despite over 34% holding advanced degrees from top universities. They were not lacking in skill. What was missing was society's willingness to see it. Another flight attendant approached, uneasy. "Ma'am, is everything all right?" Amara smiled slightly. "Everything's fine. Sometimes people just need to be reminded that progress isn't built on prejudice." 15 minutes later, As the plane reached cruising altitude, the atmosphere had shifted. Caitlin kept her distance, her confidence gone. In 2021, the Federal Aviation Administration issued its Airline Passenger Civil Rights Compliance Guidance, requiring all U.S. airlines to train staff on anti-discrimination and emphasizing that respect is part of safety. But enforcement remained inconsistent. Most cases were quietly buried in internal reports. A headline flashed across the mind's eye. FAA launches review after discrimination complaints rise 28% in 3 years. Amara watched clouds drift below. She thought of the email that had changed her life. "We are deeply impressed by your research and would like to invite you to Houston for a presentation." She had cried that day, not out of pride, but because it proved something undeniable. Black brilliance could reach the stars. Now, sitting in first class, she felt the irony. The same sky she studied, limitless and free, still carried invisible layers of privilege. An elderly Asian American man leaned over and whispered, "Thank you for not staying silent." Amara nodded. She wasn't there to cause a scene. She was there to defend something sacred, the dignity of intellect. For over 60 years, NASA had symbolized the pursuit of human knowledge. Yet even within that symbol, Black scientists once fought unseen battles. Katherine Johnson, the Black mathematician who calculated Apollo 11's trajectory, was once forced to use segregated restrooms. Today, women like Amara carry her legacy, not just in laboratories, but in everyday arenas where dignity is still tested. The plane began its descent. Caitlin approached again, voice small. "Dr. Lewis, I truly apologize for my behavior earlier." Amara met her eyes. "Apologies are a start, but change is what matters." Caitlin lowered her head. She didn't know that within 48 hours, her airline would receive an official notice from the FAA Passenger Rights Office, a violation report backed by anonymous video evidence. Amara gathered her things, stepped off the plane, and disappeared into the moving crowd of Houston Airport, like a meteor burning bright, then fading into the sky. Silent, but unforgettable. 3 days after the flight, the airline Skyways appeared on the front pages of 3 major newspapers. The headline on the Washington Chronicle read, "Passenger discriminated against in first class. FAA launches formal investigation." Attached was a still frame from a passenger's phone video, the exact moment Amara laid her NASA badge on the tray table, the metallic reflection slicing through the cabin light like proof no one could deny. At first, the airline stayed silent, but the public did not. The hashtag #FlyWithDignity spread across social media. Thousands shared their own experiences, being questioned, doubted, or dismissed because of the color of their skin or the way they looked. In a press briefing days later, the airline's spokesperson said, "We are cooperating fully with the FAA to review our internal training programs. Respect for our passengers is at the core of our mission." But the public knew. Such words often only appeared when cameras were on. Shortly after, the FAA's Washington office released preliminary findings. Flight 472 had violated Section 3 of the Passenger Civil Rights Code, which clearly states that any differential treatment on the basis of race, gender, or national origin constitutes discrimination. The airline was fined and ordered to enroll all cabin staff in civil rights and unconscious bias training. Caitlin, the attendant, was suspended indefinitely. Amara never spoke publicly. When reporters reached out, she sent only one line in reply. "You don't need to mention my name. Just remind people that in the sky, we should learn to fly higher than prejudice." The sentence went viral. Months later, it appeared in the opening keynote of NASA's Diversity in Science Conference 2025. On a large screen behind the director, her words shone against the backdrop of stars. "In the sky, we must learn to fly higher than prejudice." That year, FAA statistics recorded a 17% drop in discrimination complaints across U.S. airlines, the first decline in over a decade. Some companies began introducing inclusive skies programs, training crews through real-world case simulations. Universities started inviting Amara to speak, not about the incident, but about how one holds dignity under doubt. Standing before a group of students in Atlanta, she once said, "I don't remember that day as an incident. I remember it as a lesson, that intelligence is the only passport we should ever need to reach the future." The auditorium erupted in applause. Some cried. A young black student approached, her voice trembling. I want to be a scientist too, but sometimes they make me feel like I'm not enough. Amara placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. You don't need permission to dream. Just step forward. History will adjust itself. Outside, the Texas night stretched wide, thousands of stars gleaming. Somewhere up there, a spacecraft shielded by Amara's research was orbiting Earth. No one knew her name, and that was all right. Because from one moment of humiliation, she had lifted an entire system higher. The story closes not with revenge, but with a quiet truth. That justice isn't only about punishment. It's about building a world that treats people more fairly than it did yesterday.